Thank you everyone for joining the webinar this morning. For those that have just joined, my name is John Sugden. I'm Head of Unified Comms and Collaboration, and we will be discussing the future of business communications and collaboration with our partner RingCentral. Just to go through the agenda for today, I can see we've got a mixture, some existing customers of Prodec, but also some that will be new to Prodec. So I'll be starting just by giving a brief introduction to who we are. I'll then be handing over to Niall Carter, who is an enterprise team lead at RingCentral, to go through an overview of the RingCentral solution. I'm then delighted to welcome Paul Smith, who is the CEO of Consultive, a long-standing customer of Prodec, who chose RingCentral as their cloud telephony platform about 6 months ago, and he's joined us to do a Q&A session on the reasons that they chose RingCentral and the experience that he's had over the last 6 months since deploying it. We'll then just finish up with a Q&A session just to answer any questions that come up during the webinar. And as I mentioned earlier, if you have any questions, do feel free just to use the chat feature at the bottom of your screen, and we'll come back and answer as many of those as we can at the end. So, to make an introduction to Prodec Networks, we are a managed service provider, and we are one of the UK's leading providers of industry-leading technology, solutions and services to our customers. We started life just over 20 years ago, initially as a network brokerage. However, we've rapidly expanded our capabilities, firstly around the network, to include building, supporting scalable and secure networks for our customers. We've expanded the solutions that we offer beyond the network, certainly over the last decade or so, but the network has remained very much at the heart of everything that we do. And that's as relevant now as it's ever been, as organisations, especially with the challenges of COVID, begin to move more of their services to the cloud. In terms of our company size, we employ around 150 people. We turn over in the region of £30 million a year. One of the catchphrases we have internally, we're big enough to cope, but small enough to care. But also we're a size where we can be very dynamic and really change and offer customers what they need in changing times. And again, that's been very relevant over the last 12 months or so. A substantial part of our employee force is within our professional service team. So we are one of only a handful of RingCentral partners, for example, that is able to manage the implementation of the platform ourselves, as opposed to outsourcing it or using RingCentral to do that. And that's in recognition of our professional service capability. And it's very rare that we ever need to outsource that type of capability beyond our own business. In terms of our location, we're headquartered in Twyford, which is just outside Reading, but we have coverage across the UK with a northern office just outside Durham, and we have staff and field engineering teams across the country. In terms of our strategic partnerships, we offer industry-leading technology in all of the solution areas in which we operate. RingCentral and Avaya are one of our two leading strategic partners within the telephony and unified comms space. Something that Niall will talk about in a little bit more detail during his section, but some of you may be introduced to this webinar via the Avaya Cloud Office proposition. Avaya, as many of you will know, have been an industry-leading telephony provider within the on-prem telephony space, and made the decision a few years ago to partner with RingCentral instead of developing their own cloud proposition, to partner with RingCentral to deliver a cloud offer to their customers. And this has been positioned or branded as Avaya Cloud Office, but it is built on the RingCentral platform. So those that are joining today, having discussed Avaya Cloud Office, the platform is the same, and everything that Niall will be going through would apply to the Avaya Cloud offer, Avaya Cloud Office proposition. Some of the other strategic vendors that we have, certainly going back to our networking days, we are a leading Cisco partner, and we also work with HP as a leading manufacturer around the networking space. We're also a Microsoft Gold partner, and this has become increasingly important over recent years, certainly within the world of collaboration, AV collaboration, and unified comms. The link with the IT, within the IT arena, has become ever stronger, and having that understanding and capability in-house around IT, and certainly some of the Microsoft propositions, has been quite a key part in us being able to provide the right solutions and support solutions for our customers. Around the video collaboration space, we are a Poly partner, and a lot has changed within that world, which I will talk about in a bit more detail shortly. But Poly are a key player for us, certainly around the meeting room space, but also things like headsets and handsets. And from a security perspective, we work with Fortinet and Palo Alto. And again, I'll talk shortly about the importance of security and how we can meet some of those challenges within the dispersed workforce that most organizations now have. In terms of our accreditations, we are quality assured by a number of organizations. We are ISO 9000 and 14001 accredited. Most importantly, we also have a ISO 27001 accreditation, which recognizes our processes and performance within the IT security space. Hosted and managed IT services is a large part of what we do, and security is becoming an ever important part of that offer. We are also Cyber Essentials accredited, and that is in recognition, or has been a requirement for a lot of the public sector and MOD contract work that we do around the IT space. And finally, but not least, we have a service desk that runs 24/7, 365. I mentioned at the beginning, we are a managed service provider. So we are not just focused on providing solutions. We are here to offer a long-term partnership with all of our customers and to support the solutions that we install. And the service desk is a big part of that. So moving on to take a brief look at our capabilities. Not all of these are relevant to, or specifically relevant to this session. So I will spend more time on some and move reasonably quickly over others. But I did talk earlier about the breadth of services that Prodec can provide, and in many cases, actually, this is one of our real USPs, and that is probably no more true than now to help meet some of the challenges that COVID has brought organisations over the last 12 months. Enabling home workers and facilitating a dispersed workforce is a multifaceted challenge. And Prodec aims to bring together the core elements needed to address these challenges for our customers, whether that be a cloud telephony solution that will work on any device wherever you are, such as RingCentral, to a meeting room that will work seamlessly with how you work at home, to SD-WAN that can deliver connectivity and security to remote locations. You'll see we have these core foundations underpinning our brand: connect, communicate, and collaborate. So these really sort of form the three key pillars where we see that we can help the organizations that we work with. So looking at AV and collaboration to start with, and what a year it's been for the world of video collaboration. in the industry, people like me have been saying that it's going to be the year of video for probably over a decade now, and it's never quite happened. Whereas 2021, I think, is the year where we can safely say that the video has become an established means of how we all work. And COVID has obviously been the kind of trigger event to make that happen. However, there's been one other significant factor, which has been the move to the desktop. And the world of video collaboration has been tiptoeing towards this ever since the launch of probably Skype for Business, but it's been happening quite gradually. But that has changed so significantly over the last 12 months. I would say what would normally have happened in 3 years has happened over that 1 year period. And the desktop is now very firmly the key tool and the most dominating force when it comes to video collaboration. So whereas in the past, video was really very much in the sole domain of the meeting room, desktop is now the driving force, and the meeting room needs to kind of fit seamlessly into that landscape. And there'll be many of you on the call today that will use tools such as Microsoft Teams, for example. And again, it's a desktop tool, and the meeting room, if you're using that, would need to fit into that way of working. And similar thing could be said for the world of unified comms and UCaaS and contact center as a service as well. I think the world of telephony and unified comms, probably by its own admission, has been a bit late to the party in terms of moving to the cloud. However, certainly over the last 12 months, most organizations that we talk to would now recognize that the cloud really is the best option for their business to enable workers to communicate wherever they are. Work is no longer a place, it's something that we do, and staff need to be enabled to do that, whether they're at home, whether they're in an office, or whether they're on the move. And I will obviously talk about that in more detail during his section. Wireless security and networking, I will talk, I'll bring those three together. I've mentioned already that networking is very much at the heart of what Prodec Networks delivers for its customers. But this landscape has also changed quite significantly. Delivering a stable, secure network when all of your staff are in a single location now looks to be quite an easy exercise compared to the challenges that a dispersed workforce now brings. So we have a range of options. I mentioned things like SD-WAN earlier that deliver reliable connectivity and secure connectivity to remote locations and people working from home. And as we move to the cloud, that connectivity part becomes ever more important, because a platform such as RingCentral can only deliver its full potential when the connectivity from the user is good enough, and we can work with organizations to deliver that part of the equation. Cloud IT and managed IT, again, I'll bring those two together. We are moving more and more to the cloud for the services that we consume. And Office 365, as an example, has been a key part for many organizations. And our Microsoft Gold certification means that we can work with organizations that are using Office 365, but we also deliver other areas of managed IT. Prodec operates from 4 data centers to provide customers that are looking for a private cloud, a privately managed set of services and solutions, which we can also support. So those various expertise really hopefully make Prodec a partner of choice, and a partner that can bring all of the various areas together to help meet some of the challenges that we'll face in the current world of work. So that's it for me in terms of the Prodec overview. I'm just going to hand over to Noel now to go through the RingCentral proposition.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Just want to check you can hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. So firstly, thank you everybody for joining this webinar. Working with partners such as Prodec is so important to RingCentral in terms of best representing those customers' voices into us. You know, we're obviously a vendor and a solution provider, but the closer we can get to the partners like Prodec and also you as customers means that we're able to best fit and best provide the solutions that are right for you, right? So I want to talk a little bit today, probably about 12, 13 minutes, give you a bit of an idea about RingCentral in terms of where we came from and the way we see the market, where we're going to. Also want to talk a little bit about the partners and how we go to market. So touch upon the Avaya again. Also want to talk a little bit about almost sharing some experiences I have with customers that I've worked on and sharing experiences of what that journey looks like. You know, we can call it from PBX to cloud, we can call it from on-prem to cloud, but you're probably here because you're starting to think about that journey. You probably have some sort of tin and wire based solution, and you're probably looking at something that can provide you the ability to work from anywhere, or your users or your consumers, customers to work from anywhere. So I just want to share some experiences, some commentary around that too. So firstly, I want to say, RingCentral, we're not Amazon or Microsoft or Google. We don't profess to be. We don't want to do everything. We're certainly not going to start selling books or home DIY services or anything like that. We've got one mission, and it's to make business communication as simple as possible. We were founded by a chap called Vlad Sheminis. He's still the manager. He's still the CEO. I think he's now the president, actually. So he still runs the organization. He's still very prevalent within it. So the culture and the personality and the problem solving that he founded the company with is still very prevalent within the organization at the moment. So what do I mean by making communication as simple as possible? And that's the only thing we do. I often describe RingCentral as having kind of two halves of the same brain, right? We as human beings, we can't operate in the way we want to. We can't have the logic and the motor skills without both halves of those brain working together. So if we apply that to what RingCentral does, on the right-hand side of the brain, we've got everything based around employee engagement. So this is message, video, and phone. And this is about empowering your employees to communicate as simply as possible. So that could be telephony on the desktop. It could be, and I'll talk about this a bit later, it could be a 1960s Bakelite phone in a boiler room of an industrial estate. It could be an integration into the likes of Microsoft Teams for knowledge workers or Salesforce on your CRM. It's about bringing that together. It could be elevating it up into a messaging and collaboration platform and a video platform. The point here is it's about empowering your employees. That's the right-hand side of the brain. The left-hand side of the brain is all focused on helping organizations engage their customers. So these could be end consumers, or they could be it could be B2B. It could be your business customers. So this is more traditionally focused upon what we call front office. So other phrases are like contact center. So this could be outbound, very rich and powerful, progressive predictive dialing capabilities. It could be simple inbound email, web chat, voice, or it could be a more modern take on front office customer engagement around digital channels. This, particularly if you look at the likes of Boohoo and ASOS, are good examples here. They don't have a telephone number on their website anymore because they're expecting their consumers to engage them only through digital and social media channels. I also have some enterprise customers, a large newspaper company. They tried call deflection, moving away from telephone, because they want people to raise IT support tickets, essentially, either through their CRM or through web chat, which they have locked down internally. So the reason I describe this as the right-hand side of the brain and the left-hand side of the brain is what RingCentral wants to do is bring those two together to make collaboration and communication across that as effective and as simple as possible, because there's a lot of knowledge and a lot of power to your employees being engaged with that customer engagement part as well. So if we can provide one platform that's rich, that's high quality, high availability, that's scalable, that's cloud-based, you can work from anywhere, bring all of that capability to any of your customers or your employees, that makes business communication as simple as possible. So that's kind of what we do. That's how we see ourselves. Quick slide on where we came from. So we were founded in 1999. So we've grown very successfully. We're exiting this last financial quarter about 1.35, 1.4 billion a year run rate. We started out on the west coast of California with Virgin Venus, and we've really just grown east. So we've got about 6,000 members of staff. We've got major centers of operations in Belmont, California, Denver, London, Paris, Australia, Manila. We're about to open a country office and make a substantial investment in India, with presence in China and Russia too. And we've grown very successfully at around 30, sort of mid 30% growth year on year. Now, the reason I bring this slide up is not to talk about how big we are and how big the numbers are, but it's to talk about what got us there. Because I think, and I talked earlier about that culture that Vlad brought into the organization, that culture of innovation is really important, especially when you're a cloud-based provider. You have to run fast, you have to be front of the pack all the time, because actually, if the moment you stop moving, you get overtaken. The moment you stop focusing on customers being the North Star, on constant expansion and improvement in R&D, quality improvement, service improvement, feature functionality, the moment you take your eye off that, you get overtaken. So research and development is absolutely critical. This isn't just how many knobs and bells and whistles your platform can make, but it's like the investment in people, it's the investment into service. So, it's your support team. It's also an investment in partners like Prodec as well, making them as successful as possible to ultimately increase our reach and our ability to support you as customers or potential customers. So when you look at that, the thing that I think allows us that such consistent growth, 34% year on year, 21 years, is the fact that we put so much emphasis into R&D. Into really self-investment, what that is. That's what the chart on the bottom right shows you. So compare and contrast us to our nearest cloud competitor, and about 6 years ago, we really started to just to overtake them, and that's because of that continued investment. So take a market barometer. I happen to like Gartner. I'm a geographical background, so I like the spatial aspect of it. But take any market barometer, Gartner, IHS, Forrester, etc. And what you see is RingCentral way up there into the top right. And what I think really speaks to the commitment and stamina, that culture of RingCentral, is the fact that if you go and look at the Gartner quadrant year on year for the last 6 years, we're the only dot that moves both up and to the right. Now, what that means is that our platform's getting better, we're expanding globally, but we're also getting more feature and function rich. So the commitment and stamina, right, which is driven by that culture, to move us up and to the right consistently year on year, that's the culture of RingCentral. That's the way we see ourselves and want to continue to expand. Just touch on, we talked about the partnership with Avaya. I'm aware that some people on the call might be here from a RingCentral Office engagement. They might be from an Avaya Cloud Office engagement. And I think the partnership with Avaya that we entered into, that both organisations entered into last year, I think is really indicative of the fact that we are continually putting away from the crowd, the investment that we have made in our platform. Because actually, Avaya, the Avaya brand is like synonymous with telephony, right? It has been a staggeringly large user base. The partner channel within Avaya is, the customers are hugely loyal to the partner base. The partners are hugely loyal to the brand and the customers, for good reason. But I think what they recognised over the last few years is no matter what investment they could put into their cloud platform, they'd never be able to put enough investment quickly enough to catch the likes of us up. So they use the old adage, or if you can't beat them, join them. So Avaya Cloud Office is powered by RingCentral. Really, the only difference, as John mentioned, is one, RingCentral Office is orange and blue, Avaya Cloud Office is red. But again, this speaks to the importance we place on our channel, our partners, because again, the thing that I think Avaya has done really well is they've got such a loyal customer and partner base. There's a really great relationship there that, as a competitor, when a couple of years ago, was quite difficult to break down and break into. Even though we might have had a fantastic platform, there was a great focus on service there. So, it really was a great partnership. We were able to tap into that amazing, customer service and that amazing customer base, and Avaya was able to tap into our amazing technology platform. Okay, so just to recap, before I just go on to 2 or 3 slides about the journey that we can help on, I talked about where RingCentral came from, how we see ourselves in the market. I talked about the right-hand side of the brain. I talked about the left-hand side of the brain, how we look to make business communication as easy as possible by joining the two together. What I want to do now is just spend probably 4 or 5 minutes just talking about, very, very generically, some experience that I see with organizations wanting to make this journey, right? And some of the benefits that you see within that. I'll do this through some observations. I've only got 3 example customers that I can use for that. So a very, very simple chart. It's always good when it goes up and to the right, as I talked about the cut on the right. But this is really common. So organizations, especially with telephony, I find, because hello and goodbye over a copper cable has worked for about 150 years. It's often one of the last things to move to the cloud. It certainly wasn't going to be one of the first. But I think we're starting to see probably over the last 2 years, a real acceptance. There's no reason why it shouldn't. But as a result, core communication systems, I think traditionally have been much more on-prem based than maybe more traditional or more early adopter cloud systems like infrastructure as a service or platform as a service. So a lot of organizations are at this point where they've got tin and wires, they've still got servers and MPLS things that they're feeding and watering, big racks of server providing this core communication system. And that's absolutely okay. As I said, hello and goodbye has worked really well. And very often what I see the first step in organizations wanting to do is they want to consolidate suppliers, they want to simplify their estate, so they don't want to have multiple PBXs to manage. They want one singly administered, consolidated, simple way of providing communication systems. 2 things are critical there, though. There's 3 things, really. They often want an as is. We've got this, it works well, we just want it easier to manage. So it's a like for like. That's often the first step. Okay, so how can we move and improve it, right? How can we provide the same feature functionality, the same feature functionality, but make it easier to administer, easier to control, more transparency? How can we allow people to work from anywhere? And also, what I'm seeing a lot is, we're an organization, we've got 1,000 desk phones out there. Actually, we've realized that 200 of those people have never picked up that phone. For 1.5 years, it's been sitting idle, but we're paying for that. So how can you start consolidating? How can you start allowing people the choice of how they communicate? And that's where you get the likes of RingCentral really helping. So the first thing to do, we see, is take that estate, wipe out the on-prem tin and wires and move it to the cloud and start allowing choice. Message, video, phone, customer engagement, what's right for which users at which time. Then when people start getting comfortable with it being in the cloud, then they're starting to realize some of the agility and the speed with which they can run at. This is where I often get into conversations with integrations. So I mentioned Microsoft Teams earlier. It's very simple, very easy to plug RingCentral into Microsoft Teams. There are choices of how to do it. We can do that for some of the population of your business and others not. It might be that you've got some users who spend all day in Teams. You've got some users who never do. They don't need to. I often see this in HR, in finance. No reason to use Teams whatsoever, but they use telephony, they use video a lot. So you might choose to integrate the Teams in one part of the user base and not in the other. You might have a CRM like Salesforce. I'm seeing a lot of organizations over the last 4 months come to us saying, we've made a substantial investment in Salesforce. We love it. It's been very expensive, but it's going to deliver great benefit. The trouble we have is we've got a telephony system that's completely separated from it. We have no CTI. We can't do screen pops. We can't capture activity codes. With a cloud-based provider like RingCentral, it's very, very easy to integrate into Salesforce. In actual fact, we have an off-the-shelf integration into Salesforce, free of charge. It literally puts a RingCentral dialer into the Salesforce screen. And I'm talking to 4 organizations at the moment who are in exactly that position. And then the next thing, people say, okay, well, I'm comfortable communicating in the cloud, the message, video, phone, customer engagement. I'm now starting to see the benefits of how I can interact with my wider ecosystem of apps. Now they're starting to say, okay, I've seen some agility, I've seen some simplicity. Now what else can I do? Well, how can I then start providing automated wallboards or automated alerts to some of my contact center managers based upon the current workload that I'm seeing across my business. So you're starting to see platform and the workflows, you're starting to see alerts. What you might also start to see is some very, very large organizations wanting to deploy very, very quickly in a very customized application. The best example I have of this is the NHS Test and Trace app. I'm just going to ask one of the panelists, if you don't mind, Paul, would you mind? Pardon me. So a really good example of this is the NHS Test and Trace app, right? Very, very customized application, but what they didn't have was just core telephony. So using RingCentral and the APIs that we've got, we were able to plug telephony into this, quite bespoke application that they rolled out to 30,000 traces, and we were able to do that, create it, deploy it for 30,000 people in 2 weeks. So that's where you get an organization who's really comfortable with the cloud, really comfortable with the concept of integrations, and now they're starting to see massive benefit through that speed, agility, and openness. Quite a leap, though, to start talking about that from maybe traditional, I don't know, Mitel, tin and wires in step one. So 3 quick examples of that. Travelodge, everyone knows the brand, great organization. They had a fantastic initiative. What they wanted to do is they wanted to free up the hotel reception staff between about 10:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. where nobody really checked in. They wanted to free up that staff to go and do other jobs around the hotels. The thing that was anchoring them, making them contactable, was still that phone at the reception desk. So all they did is use RingCentral to create mobility with it for that hotel manager within that hotel. A very, very simple thing to do, but yet getting those hours back in the day to be spent being productive elsewhere saved them over £1 million a year. So just really simple workforce mobility meant they was able to save money and roll out and be more productive elsewhere. Waitrose and partners, 45,000 partners out on the shop floor using RingCentral on Android-based devices. They wanted to focus on customer service. So they wanted to use real-time and rich analytics to get their average percentage of calls answered by each store from 65% to 95%. Why? Because they wanted to make sure they captured that consumer spend. Because they knew that if somebody was ringing up a Waitrose store to say, "Are you open? Do you have 15 loaves of tiger bread for young Timothy's birthday this afternoon?" If they didn't answer the phone and confirm that, that same person was going to go to Marks and Spencer's or somewhere else. So use RingCentral to mobilize those people or really to route the calls correctly in stores. Another example, Semcorp Industries, a Prodec customer. Really nice example of a highly distributed organization, both globally but also environments. What I mean by that is they're Singapore headquartered, got about 1,500 people in the head office in Singapore, a few more in manufacturing facilities, and then several thousand others dotted around the globe. One of which was the old Enron site in Redcar. So this is the brownfield industrial estate. They've got a couple of hundred analog devices. So these are phones, literally blue plastic 1960s phones in an old gas boiler room. They needed to make sure that it was still connected for safety reasons. So imagine that disparate ecosystem. You've got a clean office environment in Singapore. I don't know if anyone's been to Singapore, but incredibly clean city, very tidy. Office workers in sky high rises using RingCentral right through and connected through the same cloud platform to a 1960s blue Bakelite phone in a decommissioned gas boiler in Redcar in northeast England. Globally distributed, but also from an environment distribution. All of that is one common platform. Really only possible through cloud, through a global provider, through a multi-tenanted cloud platform. Okay, so that's I've just given you an example of the path that I often see organizations coming on. Gave you 3 different examples. The likes of RingCentral and Prodec, obviously there to help with this. We get that it's a journey. I won't go through this slide in any great detail, but I want to make the point that we've done this. RingCentral, Prodec are very comfortable with the steps that we need to take you through, and importantly, we get that employee engagement, customer engagement is really important to you. we need to be able to have a collaborative consultative approach to make sure we understand, we introduce ourselves to each other, but then we discover, we design together, we test and we learn before we then get to the agreement. We're constantly iterating to make sure that the choice that our technology platform provides you also gives you the choice in how you want to communicate in the future. And to John's point, and very much the end, no presentation would be complete without going to COVID, right? Go back a year and a half and think how different the working environment has changed, right? It's been able to change so quickly because organizations and customers and employees have had the choice of how they can communicate, of how they can work. So what we're seeing is organizations wanting to find a partner that can help them choose and provide the choice to their staff and their customers. With that, I want to pass back to John and say thank you for your time. I'll be sticking around for Q&A. John, over to you.
No, thank you very much. So we're just going to move on to the customer Q&A now, and I'm delighted and thankful for Paul Smith, who is the managing director at Consultive, who's going to join us. Has joined us this morning, sorry, to talk about his experience of migrating to RingCentral. So, good morning, Paul. I suppose the first question I was going to ask is, it might be useful just to explain to everyone how you know Prodec Networks.
Certainly, yes. Hello, everyone. John, you've knocked me off, John, with that picture. I don't look that youthful anymore. So if you've knocked me slightly sideways, seeing that nice tan I've got there. So yeah, CEO of Consultive Utilities. We've been established now for around about 3.5 years in the energy industry. That's primarily working with a host of businesses on the carbon and compliance services. We offer merchant services, a host of energy efficiency products, and primarily gas and electricity, where we go out and broker the contract on behalf of our customers. We're around about circa 4,500 customers across around about 12,000 meter points. And primarily all of our business comes via our call centre. Probably about 99.9% of the business comes from outbound sales and the call centre, where we employ around about 100 staff. The host of that, the staff are in Newcastle, and we also have employees, home working employees around the Midlands area, and equally as far as Malta. So obviously a home working system and a cloud-based system works excellently for us, and we're investigating potentially opening an office in South Africa. So as you can imagine, a system like RingCentral suits us massively.
Fantastic. I mean, as a call centre, obviously the demands on your telephone system, it's a key part of what you do and your employees' workflow. Would you be able to describe some of the demands and the functionality that you need from a phone system?
Of course, yeah. Like you say, it's probably, along with the employees, it's the most important thing to us. Without the ability to contact our customers via the telephone, we don't really have a way of engaging with them and solving their problems. Obviously, we could use emails, but as you know, in this day and age, that doesn't quite cut it. So a system with high availability and reliability, and equally as well, when you're managing call centres, it's important to have the right reporting on hand to be able to see what performance is like, and that's not just at the end of the day overnight reports. It's on hand instant reporting. Equally, the ability to sort of monitor live telephone calls for coaching and trainings, equally as important to us. So yeah, the demands of a phone system are as high as any demand in our business, to be honest.
Absolutely, and I guess especially when your staff now are working from home, that the traditional call center where you've got everybody in one place, you can probably, it's easier to manage activity, call numbers, whereas trying to do that when staff are working from home and remote locations is obviously far harder. I think I'm right saying you were already on a sort of second generation cloud telephony solution before you moved to RingCentral. What made you feel that going to a full cloud solution was the right decision for your business?
Yeah, that's right. We had a system there, obviously. No one could foresee what was about to hit us last year and equally now. So, like you said, home workers, and at the start of the pandemic, we were having to sort of hand deliver phones, drop them off outside. I had my IT team, telephony team, hand delivering handsets to people's houses so they could work from home, which obviously, as you can imagine, wasn't ideal. So a cloud choice obviously eliminated that. But obviously there's other important factors, COVID aside, the infrastructure and maintenance costs obviously can be quite high. And as a growing business, we grew obviously to a decent size now. Maintenance and costs and redundancy and reliability were becoming a slight issue with our previous system. So we were sort of encouraged when obviously I've worked with Paul for a number of years, and he's been an advisor in sort of the last 3 companies I've worked for over the last 15 years. And he came and recommended this system because I went to Paul and said, look, we're having reliability issues here. What can we do? The problems we had, and obviously the importance of the telephony system in the environment, made us look elsewhere. We had to go and look for a better solution.
Fantastic. And did you evaluate any other cloud platforms as part of your decision-making process?
We did, yeah. Obviously, the system we had in place at the time was in there, and Mytel soft phone solution as well. But we found, obviously, I know Niall touched on it previously about how the look and feel of the system is and how it's progressed and how sort of the pushing forward from a technology point. And we found that the other solutions seemed a bit dated and that it was feature rich with RingCentral. And although you look at the features there and think, well, we might not use 50% of them, but we might in the future. When you look at what's happened in the past sort of 12 to 18 months, you never say never, do you? So the fact that we had all those features there, and obviously, like I touched on, the reliability of the system was and it sounds like a no-brainer.
No, absolutely, and I can certainly talk from personal experience. We use the RingCentral platform ourselves, and the management functionality, the reporting capability has been a very important part of the system for us, especially over the last 12 months. I mean, what do you think the impact would have been on your business had you not made the move to the cloud?
Yeah, well, I think at the time we were around about circa 50 heads, and the growth over the festive period, we've probably doubled in size, headcount-wise, and especially the sales team. So it not just having a system that's reliable, also the implementation. So moving over the system, the transition was, I mean, I can't really tell you the story of the transition because it just happened and it was so seamless. And the guys working on hand with your guys at Prodec, it happened so seamlessly that I think if we hadn't have done the move, back to your question, we would have experienced additional downtime, and obviously that would have been across a wider range of users as well. So the fact that we made the jump and the leap, and we managed to grow so quickly, and not only just have a more reliable system, but equally a system that we can grow and expand quickly is essential without the need. We're not waiting for additional handsets to be delivered or users to be set up. We can manage all of that ourselves, and we know exactly what the cost is going to be month to month.
I was going to ask you actually how you found the implementation process, and you've already answered that perfectly for me. But I mean, certainly, from a Prodec perspective, we have a long history of providing on-prem solutions for our customers, and I continue to be impressed just how quickly we can actually stand up new deployments with the RingCentral platform. What would have traditionally taken months and months and months, customers are live within weeks. So I always find it very impressive how quickly and easily we can actually migrate customers over to a cloud platform.
Yeah, and I think just touching on that, that was one of my main concerns. Obviously, speaking to Paul quite in depth about that particular piece of work, and he did reassure me. I've always got an element of nervousness when it's my own business, but having a dedicated advisor along with Paul as well to work with my team. Like I said, I set the guys off and didn't really hear anything about it, which is it's all I can ask for, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as part of any migration, there's two elements. There's understanding obviously where you want to go to, but there's obviously where you are to start with. And Prodec has that experience in understanding on-premise systems so that we can cope with both the moving you away from a system that we understand to a cloud system that we also understand. So that's one of the elements where Prodec has always been very strong.
Yeah.
And what advice would you give for organisations that are looking to move to the cloud?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Just consider the current position. Obviously, with the pandemic, no one can foresee what's going to happen in the future. I mean, I've always been one of these. There's no homework, and I want everyone in the office. We're 9 to 5. Get yourself in here, and obviously that changed drastically. I didn't have much of a choice, so obviously evaluate the current position, look at things that could happen, and always have that ability to have a flexible working environment, because you never actually know what's around the corner. Equally, there's the costs around your hardware management and reliability, so evaluate again what's happening in that space for you. Are you experiencing downtime? If you're looking to grow in the future, have a plan around that in terms of your systems and what you're looking to do. And a scalable solution like this obviously gives you an advantage over on-prem, or equally a more historic cloud-based system. The instant user setup was big for us, really, because with our previous system it took us around about a week just to get a new phone delivered, but obviously we could set someone up, have them up and running within 10 to 15 minutes, and as you probably know, a sales environment, a call center environment, there's not many more fast-paced environments around. So yeah, I think the best advice, just evaluate your current position, look at what you've got and what's available out there on the market, and where those companies are heading.
Absolutely. No, I think flexibility is definitely a word that I hear time and time again. I think, in uncertain times, you need a system that can cope no matter what's thrown at your business. So yeah, I think flexibility and scalability are the two words that I hear a lot from organisations looking to make this move.
Yeah.
Paul, thank you very much for making the time this morning. Interrogation over.
Yeah, thanks.
And yeah, thank you for sharing your experience. So that just leads us, we've left 5 minutes or so for a Q&A. I've not been checking the chat box, see whether we've got any questions. So nothing there at the moment. I don't know if anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask before we wrap up.
I had a quick question, sorry, jumping in the last second, John, just for Niall, on his slides, he touched upon sort of the nearest competitor. I was just interested to see who the nearest competitors were. More because I'm nosy, to be honest now.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. So the chart uses publicly available data from 8x8, which is another pure play cloud provider. If your question is, well, I'm going to assume another question is, who do I see as the nearest competitor? It sounds really glib, but the honest answer is apathy. I think you actually you said it really nice, Paul. But your advice was just consider your options. It's amazing how many people I speak to who just don't think about it and just roll into the next renewal of their existing provider. And what I see a lot happen, and this happened to Waitrose actually, they get so far behind any release cycles because they just haven't thought about it, and suddenly they find themselves in a real pickle where they're massively exposed to risk because they've just not thought about it for 10 years or 5 to 10 years, or they aren't aware of it. So, there's so much opportunity there. It's just apathy is the biggest competitor that I see out there.
Yeah, good. And I think it was your point what resonated with me was to make comms as simple as possible, and that's just it. As a CEO of a business, I don't really hear much about the telephony system anymore. It's just it's there and it works, and to me, that's more important than anything else. So it was that point that you made. I thought that's why we started to look elsewhere, because it wasn't as simple as possible anymore, and that's what we've got that back by moving. Obviously, with Prodec and RingCentral, we seem to have that back. It's now as simple as possible, exactly what it should be.
That's a very good point, actually. And the world of collaboration has been on a very, very similar journey. If you look back sort of 5, 6, 7 years ago, the world of video collaboration was also very, very complicated. Those of you that have had the misfortune to use systems like Polycom in the past would common complaint, very, very complicated. Quality wasn't always great. Whereas if you look at video solutions now, again, really been driven by the desktop, very, very cost effective, very reliable and easy for people to use. So it's interesting how we've seen sort of world of collaboration take a very similar journey to the world of cloud unified comms as well.
Definitely, yeah.
Thank you, Paul. Any other questions before we wrap up? Looking empty in the chat box. Okay, well, it probably just leaves me to thank everybody for joining. I hope you found the session useful, and we'll follow up with everybody with additional information. And if you'd like anything to follow this up, just let us know, and we'll hopefully speak to you soon.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Darren.